year to build wide consensus on Zimbabwe's economic reform program, on the policy that you are implementing, but also strong efforts on the external front to change perceptions that unfortunately are negative. This is why we are here, and this is why we are trying to help, in a way. Those are my remarks, I think. But let me just say something on observations that Zimbabwe is not on the HIPEC list. Yes, it is a HIPEC, it's an awful acronym which says it's a special debt relief which is given to high debt countries, and there are some requirements for that you need to be very, very poor and you need to have very high debt. Zimbabwe does not qualify for that. So that's good in part in one side, because you are not so poor and so so that's and I think we should actually acknowledge the fact and move with seeking what we call traditional rescheduling under the Paris Club along this area. I'm done practically. Thank you very much, and we'll be happy to discuss and answer the questions.
Grazie, Signor Fanezzi. Thank you for that rendition. The relationship between Zimbabwe and the IMF, I will liken it to an offended wife that is offended by the actions of her husband, and then the husband has to do certain things to regain his trust. You have to be at home by 6 p.m. When you get home, you have to surrender your phone so that the messages are inspected. You have to account for who you were with, at what time. And so this is where we are. To respond to the presentations this morning, we have 3 respondents who are going to lead our discussions for the rest of our time together. And to open that segment, and I'm going to limit our discussants or respondents to 8 minutes so that we catch up with our time and we have time for questions from the floor. To start us off is Mr. Anthony Mandiwanza, man who needs no introduction, a leading industrialist, the CEO of Dairibord Limited. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Mandiwanza. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think I'm just going to make just a very few comments as a way of responding to what the Minister of Finance has said, as well as the representative of the IMF. I think it is trite for us as business people to say that we are under no illusion that IMF will bring a bag of cash to Zimbabwe. None of us are under that impression. But I think it is important that the relationship between Zimbabwe and the international community has greater implications because of the connectedness of the international economy. As business people, we know it too well that doing business in Zimbabwe is extremely difficult these days, challenging. We cannot access lines of credit. We do not have the ability to borrow in the capital market. but more important, we don't have the credibility to respect our obligations. We appear not to have a demonstrable commitment to fight issues like graft. So against that background, the role of the international, the IMF, is critically important. However, when you look at the conditionalities which are set by the IMF, I look at 10 of them, cutting expenditures, and that is agreeable with us as business people, focusing on economic output, on direct export and resource extraction, devaluation of currency, and I'm pleased that we don't have that as an issue now. Trade liberalization or lifting import and export restriction. I think as business people, we have a challenge there. And I would like to hear a little bit of your views on that conditionality, trade liberalization, lifting import and export restrictions. How can an economy be turned around when you open your frontiers and at the same time acknowledging that we have not been able to recapitalize over 20 years or so? How do you become competitive and grow your economy under that conditionality? It is also said that you need to increase the stability of investment. We agree. Balancing budget and not overspending, I think there is some merit there, but also as business people, we do believe that overspending just as an issue is not particularly a matter that is difficult to appreciate. If you overspend in the right areas that create a domino effect, we do not believe that it is wrong to do so. But if you overspend in consumption, then you have got a problem. The other conditionality which you set is removing price controls and state subsidies. A seeming contradiction with poverty eradication. You remove state subsidies, at the same time the economy is battling to recover from where it is. How do you balance that with the alleviation of subsidy? Privatization or divestiture of all state enterprises. I think we have a problem there. The state enterprises, they play a significant role in terms of economic growth, and we know it. China now is a bigger economy, number 2 actually, and we know that most of the engine behind it is state enterprises. But the IMF believes that we need to move right away from control to, here I talk as if to say I come from government sector, but I don't. But I need to understand those issues, that dynamic, as to how will it generate economic growth. Enhancing the rights of foreign investors, I think we do agree, and I think as business people, we have spoken quite passionately about the need to create a conducive environment. And of course, improving governance and fighting corruption, we agree with that. Honorable Minister Chinamasa, my few comments to government is to say that there is a line of logic. We can see the investment that the Chinese are making in infrastructure development are highly encouraging, because we can see the multiplier effect. We can also see the investment that is coming in through the Russians. Obviously, the BRICS are playing a role. But what is critically important is to ensure that those investments are implemented in an effective, cost-effective manner and avoid creating cost overhang. Because at the end of the day, it is us who will be able to pay for that. So, what mechanisms are we putting in place to ensure that the implementation of those investment programs is done as efficiently as practically possible, and of course transparently? I think it's a key important issue, and more so to ensure that we move away from talking, but to have a clear metrics of monitoring the implementation of those investments. I think it is important. And then of course, the Minister, an admission that the country has got 6.9 obligation is encouraging and it's candid. But I think we need also to begin to explore strategic options of how to resolve this overhang, because its presence presents formidable funding challenges for business in Zimbabwe. I think we need to address that aspect to say, what are we then doing with that issue? Mr. Chairman, you said 8 minutes. I chose 4 minutes. Thank you.
Well done, Ngoma Anthony. I don't know what award I will give you, but well done. The next respondent, and I'm going to ask the respondents to remain seated in the interest of time, is Zimbabwean businessman in the infrastructural sector and various sectors around Zimbabwe, Mr. John Ross Goddard. Thank you, Mr. Goddard. You may give your comments and just access a microphone there and give us your comments. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Mr. Goddard.
Good morning, everyone. Professor Jonathan Moyo, Minister, the Honourable Minister, Professor Jonathan Moyo, Minister Patrick Chinamasa, Minister Stembiso Nyoni, Deputy Minister Super Wandazira, Guest of Honour, Mr. Domenico Fanezzi of the IMF, Members of Parliament, senior government officials, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Executive of Zim Papers, the Mayor of Harare, Captains of Industry, Executive of the splendid Conference Centre, fellow speakers and delegates today. I sincerely thank Honourable Minister Professor Jonathan Moyo and Honourable Minister Patrick Chinamasa and the Executive of Zim Papers for inviting me here today to contribute to the discussions on restoring our Zimbabwean relations with the IMF. It is indeed a great privilege to be able to attend this function and to assist in our national endeavours. I just pray and hope that my efforts will prove both useful and positive. I'm not particularly qualified to speak on such matters, this being the realm of qualified economists and financiers. I can, however, offer what I believe is a practical opinion from the point of view of an ordinary citizen and an ordinary businessman in Zimbabwe. Who am I? Principally, I'm a proud Zimbabwean. I completed my school studies. at Falcon College in 1979, and I'm proud to recall that I then enlisted as a regular soldier in the Zimbabwean Army, from whence I emerged as a full lieutenant in 1981. The training I received has always held me in very good stead when making business decisions, and those same military principles are the core of our modus operandi within our company JRG today. JRG was incorporated in 1982 when I left the military and has been built on the principles of integrity, hard work, passion, commitment, discipline, and the protection of our people and the environment in which we work. Over the past 32 years, JRG has steadily grown, and we are now regarded as specialists in large-scale earthworks, civil construction, and infrastructure development. We operate 120 major items of mining and construction plant. We boast a transport fleet of 100 vehicles, and we have enjoyed major achievements in our field, successfully completing over 200 contracts since our inception, from one end of the country to the other. We recognize that our employees are our most valuable asset. We currently employ over 200 salaried staff and over 1,000 wage staff at any time. We remain solidly committed to their health, safety, and well-being. In turn, and I stress this, our teams work hard to uphold our company principles of integrity, passion, and determination. Their efforts and dedication have contributed towards some of the company's greatest achievements, earning JRG the respect and the recognition within our construction and mining industry. That, I hope, gives some idea of where I'm coming from. It is clearly obvious that our nation, Zimbabwe, needs help on its road to economic recovery, and we need to carefully examine the various options and partners that are available to us in achieving this fundamental goal. His Excellency, our President, must be highly commended in obtaining investment from the East to rebuild our Zimbabwean economy. China, as we know, have assisted Zimbabwe hugely already, and more recently the Russians have pledged their investment in the development of a new platinum mine near Darwindale. We thank both the Russians and the Chinese most heartily. With the impetus that has been created with these real achievements, it would be hugely beneficial and wonderful to Zimbabwe if we could capitalize and restore relations with the IMF, the World Bank, and the West. I sincerely thank, at this point I would like to sincerely thank the IMF for considering our Zimbabwean plight, for being with us today, and for opening dialogue. Fundamentally, as I see it, and this, as I said earlier, is as I see it as an ordinary Zimbabwean, fundamentally, Zimbabwe is rich with natural resources that include huge mineral deposits, wildlife, arable lands, forests, and surface water resources for significant irrigation. Zimbabwe produces more than 40 types of metals and minerals. Zimbabwe has the world's third largest source of platinum group metals, with substantial reserves of chrome found in the Great Dyke. Of the hydroelectric generation potential at Lake Kariba, coal is one of Zimbabwe's primary energy sources. High-quality coal deposits occur in Wankie, parts of the north of Matabeleland, and in the Zambezi Valley, and in the southeast of our nation too. And perhaps telling you stuff that you already know, but I'm painting a picture. The Makandi Basin in the northwest of Zimbabwe contains the country's copper and graphite mines, as well as reserves of lead, zinc, and silver. In recent years, the diamond discoveries at Moyo and Marange have become an important boost to our national economy, and have certainly helped hugely in these last few years. We are greatly blessed by Lake Kariba, the Eastern Highlands, Great Zimbabwe, the Matopus, Wankie National Park, Goddard Zoo, Victoria Falls, all of which are significant tourist attractions and income generators. Our tobacco industry, and this is an important point, our tobacco industry continues to recover from strength to strength. I understand that the 2014 tobacco crop is the second largest crop to be ever produced in Zimbabwe. I believe that our largest tobacco crop was 236 million kilograms. And this year, I believe we are close to achieving 219 million kilograms. That's a huge, huge, huge achievement. What is also very, very important is that we have a very well-educated and peaceful population, a stressed peaceful. It is remarkable how peaceful our Zimbabwean population is. In the 2014 World Economic Forum report, Zimbabwe was ranked number 5 on the African continent in terms of quality of mathematics and science education. The World Economic Forum report also ranked Zimbabwe's quality of educational system as the second best in Africa after Zambia and 42nd on a global scale. In February 2014, Zimbabwe was ranked number 1 in Africa with the highest literacy rate, taking over from Tunisia. These are real achievements. We need to encourage our learned, experienced, and qualified citizens, many of whom are now in the diaspora, to return to Zimbabwe, together with the savings that they have generated and accumulated, and invest those savings back in Zimbabwe. The return of many of the skilled diaspora will overcome the critical skills shortages that we are experiencing, and their input will be a major boost in restoring our economy of Zimbabwe.